Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're doing something a little bit different. We're looking way past the shiny medals, the world records, and those roaring crowds to uncover the deep, philosophical roots of the world's biggest sporting spectacle. We're going to explore the profound cultural and educational values that actually built the foundation of the Olympic movement. And trust me, it goes way beyond just running fast or jumping high.
Let's be real for a second. We all tune in to see who takes home the gold, right? I mean, we absolutely love the photo finishes, the tears of joy, those triumphant podium moments. It's thrilling. But is victory actually the core purpose of the games? Well, if we look at the original charter and the true vision behind the modern games, the answer might really surprise you.
Check out this famous quote from the founder of the modern Olympics, Pierre de Coubertin. He said, "The most important thing in the Olympic Games is not to win, but to take part. The essential thing is not to have conquered, but to have fought well." It's literally the ultimate reminder that the struggle, the sheer effort, and the sportsmanship matter far more than the final triumph. Participating with absolute honesty and relentless dedication, that is the true hallmark of an Olympian.
Which leads us perfectly into Section 1, more than just sports.
Okay, to really get what drives this whole massive movement today, we have to talk about Olympism. It's not just an athletic training program, it is a comprehensive philosophy of life. Olympism deliberately blends sport with culture and education. The end goal here isn't just to forge a super-fast runner or a strong weightlifter, it's more like a blueprint to develop a completely balanced human being, someone where physical strength, mental focus, and strong willpower all exist together in perfect harmony. Now, how does that high-minded philosophy actually translate to the real world? It breaks down into these 5 core educational values that we can all practice whether we're athletes or not. We're talking about the joy of effort. Literally having fun while pushing yourself to your absolute limits. Fair play, showing total grace in both victory and defeat. Respect for others, playing on diverse teams without any discrimination. The pursuit of excellence, giving it your absolute best shot and bouncing back from failure. And finally, that absolutely crucial balance among body, will, and mind.
So the contrast here is pretty striking. Think about it. Simply playing a sport, that might just be about checking the scoreboard and obsessing over the final score. But embracing the Olympic values education, that means something entirely different. It means building lasting bonds and solid character, regardless of who actually wins the match. It's about shaking hands with your fiercest opponent after a totally grueling competition and finding genuine joy just in the immense effort you put out there.
All right, let's step back in time for Section 2, Ancient Roots, Modern Revival.
To really appreciate how these values were forged, we've got to look at how the ancient games compare to the modern ones. The ancient games kicked off way back in 776 BCE in Olympia, Greece, and they were essentially a deeply religious festival to honor Zeus. Only free Greek men participated, they competed entirely in the nude, and the ultimate prize? Just a simple olive wreath. Now, contrast that with our modern games, completely secular, featuring incredible athletes from all nations, including both men and women, and handing out those iconic metallic medals we all recognize today.
But here is a wild fact for you. The transition from ancient to modern wasn't just a continuous straight line. The Roman Emperor Theodosius I actually abolished the ancient games around 393 or 394 AD. Why? Well, due to corruption and the rising influence of Christianity, which heavily opposed those pagan rituals. That means a massive 1,503 years passed before the world ever saw an Olympic game again. I mean, just wrap your head around that massive gap in human history.
Enter Baron Pierre de Coubertin, who eventually resurrected the event from the ashes of history. This timeline moves incredibly fast. He goes from making a bold, almost impossible proposal in 1892 to officially forming the International Olympic Committee in 1894. And just 2 years after that, in 1896, boom, the very first modern games took place in Athens. They brought together 241 athletes from 14 different countries. It was a stunningly fast revival that fundamentally changed global sports forever.
Moving right along to Section 3, Symbols of the Games. Now, these famous symbols you see everywhere, they carry massive philosophical weight. The ultimate symbol of global unity has to be the 5 interlocked rings. Designed by Coubertin himself back in 1913, these interlocking rings represent the coming together of all 5 continents and the universal, peaceful participation of athletes from across the entire globe.
But wait, this is my favorite part, the specific choice of colors. You've got blue, yellow, black, green, and red. When Coubertin designed this, those 5 specific colors, combined with the pure white background of the Olympic flag, actually contained at least one color from every single national flag in the world at that time. It is a literal, beautiful representation of total global inclusivity. How cool is that?
And alongside the visual symbols, we have the official Latin motto, Citius, Altius, Fortius, which translates to faster, higher, stronger. Proposed in 1894, this short phrase is a constant, driving reminder to celebrate human willpower, continuous improvement, and the relentless drive to push our physical and mental limits to new heights. Which brings us to our final segment, Section 4, Rituals, Flame, Oath, Medals. Okay, the pageantry of these rituals is absolutely incredible, but the history behind them? Even better. Take the Olympic flame, for instance. It is literally a bridge across history. In ancient times, a fire was kept continuously burning at Olympia to honor the gods. Today, we maintain that magical connection through a modern ritual. A brand new flame is lit at the Temple of Hera in Greece, using nothing but a parabolic mirror and the pure rays of the sun, right before it begins its epic global journey.
But get this, you might think the famous torch relay, where the flame is passed from runner to runner, is an ancient tradition. Actually, scratch that assumption. It wasn't ancient at all. It actually began much later at the 1936 Berlin Olympics. During that very first relay, exactly 3,331 runners carried the flame across 7 countries just to bring it from Greece to the host stadium. That is a lot of running.
Now here's a question for you. You've probably seen the release of doves during the opening ceremonies, right? They're a universal symbol of peace. But you might wonder why there's a very, very strict rule today dictating exactly when these symbolic peace doves are allowed to be released.
Well, unfortunately, it stems from a pretty tragic cautionary tale from the 1988 Seoul Olympics. The doves were released before the lighting of the cauldron. And well, many of the birds decided to sit directly on the edge of the cauldron and were subsequently burned when the massive flame was violently ignited. This permanently changed the protocol. Now doves, or at least symbolic representations of them, are strictly released only after the flame is safely lit, just to protect them.
All right, let's talk about another solemn ritual, the oath. Introduced back in 1920 in Antwerp, it started as a simple promise made by athletes to respect the rules and completely avoid doping or cheating. But over the decades, that commitment to fair play really expanded. A specific oath for judges was added in 1972, and then an oath for coaches was integrated in 2010. This ensures that the entire sporting ecosystem is bound by a strict pledge of total fairness and integrity.
And finally, the whole shebang, the ultimate symbol of the games, the medals. Since the current system started in 1904, athletes have chased gold, silver, and bronze. But I'm going to burst your bubble here. That highly coveted gold medal, it's kind of an illusion. It's actually made of over 92.5% silver and contains a mere 6 grams of real gold plating. But you know, it just reminds us that the true value of the medal isn't the precious metal itself. It's the immense, unyielding effort required to earn it.
So, that brings us full circle. As we wrap up this explainer on the true spirit of the games, I want to leave you with a question. How can you apply the ultimate Olympic philosophy of balancing physical effort, mental focus, and strong will to achieve excellence in your own daily life? You don't need to be in a massive stadium to practice fair play, respect, and the joy of effort. The Olympic flame can burn anywhere. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive, and keep pushing your own limits. Faster, higher, stronger.